Early start this November 2nd, Labor Day weekend. I want to tell y'all, there's so many people with an opinion about relationships and marriage. And I was listening to certain pastors over the last 10 to 15 years about marriage while I was married, going through divorces and all this other stuff. And it's this big thing about you got to be complete, you got to be whole, you got to be all that. And that has always struck a nerve with me because I'm looking at my parents who started as playmates at 12 years old. And my mom told him, my father, I'm going to marry you. And they got married at 18 and have been married. And they're in their 70s now. So they spent most of their life together. They don't know any other person on the earth better or more than they know each other, based on the time and the experiences that they've had. I've seen the same pastors who preach about this wholeness and completeness that had no clue about it by their own testimony when they got married and went through trials and grew together through that based on the commitment that they had to each other, and not necessarily God's promises, by their own confession. And I'm thinking of two pastors, I won't call their name specifically, which really communicate this very strongly. And I'm just like, at what point are we going to preach the Bible versus preach the the popular thought of the time? And I realized that a lot of people want to tell you things based on shoulda, coulda, woulda. If I knew better, I would have, or whatever. But the commitment to the relationship superseded all of that. And the love for one another caused each other to grow so that you can know better and treat each other better in a relationship. And I even reflect on myself why I failed in marriages. In my first marriage, I was a hoe. Like, just gonna keep it real. I had low self-esteem. I didn't value myself. And I did love my wife at the time, but I just didn't know what a woman was. I didn't know what I had. I didn't know the garden, the multiplier, the companion, the discerning spirit, the prophet. One more. Garden, multiplier, companion, prophet, discerning spirit, and helpmate. I didn't know. I mean, and when I tell you she was most of those things when, before the fall, I mean, man, I messed up. I mean, even the first mother of my child was all of that. And I mean, I had some very good women come through, but I realized I was not faithful to God's promises. Me specifically. I was a good dude for the most part, but the cheating came because I was feeling inadequate. I did not know myself. I was not emotionally stable. Now, I will say that each one of those relationships could have worked out. But when you create a ripple, you can't control what happens or the thought process that happens in the other party. Even in my first marriage, I was the one who took the divorce papers over there to her. She thought that we would just have a time separate and then get back together. But that was me not being faithful, because I wanted to hurry up and get an answer, because I'm gonna be honest, because I was horny. I was tired of being, I'm just like, I'm gonna end up cheating again if you keep denying me, or you don't come back home, so I was not faithful. I was not patient to just be still and know God had it handled, which he did. Even on the day of divorce, oh my God, I'll never forget that day. And this is my first marriage only. A big old alarm had rang in the courtroom, and I was like, Lord, please give a sign, please, please. Even the sermon the pastor had preached right before that was like, hey, y'all need to work it out. And this was nothing but the Holy Spirit. We hadn't gone to any marriage counseling or anything for the church to even know what was going on. So it was just like, wow, you know. So God answered, but the ripple that was left from my poor judgment, it just set off a chain reaction of, I don't want to come back. So I'm saying this to say that we all have a choice in how we handle life situations. We can handle it in love. We can handle it in strife. We can handle it in fear. We can handle it in faithfulness. And I look at so many marriages that I've seen that have lasted over 20 years. And it's just been a lot of people just choosing to commit to each other. And it's crazy how a lot, and I've heard some of these same pastors say the same thing in talking about marriage, how different ethnic backgrounds or religious beliefs have been more successful at marriage. And I think the more we take in all these new thoughts and new trends and new ideas about, you know, how we should be married and all these things that have to come before marriage, we just lose the character needed for marriage, which is saying, I commit for better or worse. I do for richer or for poor. Both parties. And see, this is the thing. There's no conditions on it. I commit as long as you. No, I commit to you. I do. No, and even in the Bible, in Ephesians 5, there's no conditions. If you love me as Christ loved the church, then I will honor and respect you. No, it's no if then. And I remember in a marriage counseling session, and it just kept irritating me. And I'm just like, how y'all gonna put conditions on this when the Bible doesn't say? We don't want to add to the Bible. We want to say we're not adding to the Bible, but then we want to make conditions on it in a counseling session. And I'm just like, I'm supposed to respect y'all as marriage counselors? This is me thinking in my head. And we got to put all these conditions for this person who is super sensitive because they've had no point of reference for good marriage. All they seen is the strife and the negativity of it. So they coming in it with a tainted view. So anyway, I know I'm passionate about that, but I truly believe that at some point we as people have to learn to do better in relationships. Have to learn to make the choice to have integrity about our relationships. And nobody's going to be perfect. Everybody has to flush the toilet at some point. Mentally, physically, emotionally. I'm even say financially and spiritually. Because financially, either you going to keep spending money out of yin yang or you going to learn to get on a budget. And I tell you, it's crazy in relationships how, especially today, so many people, I can't even say especially, so many people want an exchange, but don't want to give on the level that they want to receive. And I'm just looking at, if you want money so you can be lazy, you care nothing about me. You care nothing about the work I have to do to get this money. I mean, I was talking to a friend yesterday, and he was saying, he said, you know, it's crazy how these dope boys date these girls who just want to sit on their back. and not bring to the table. It's like, at the very least, if you live in a $5,000 a month lifestyle with this dude, and this is what he's telling me, and you can't get yourself in a position where you can maintain that if something fails on his end, what have you done? You have not been a helper, a multiplier, a garden for good seed. But see, it's all about that mentality. And I'm gonna do a whole series on the poverty mindset. But you know, and I ain't even trying to say just the dope boy mentality, but that was his point, and it triggered me to think about, well, even with, I mean, it made me reflect on everyone I married. I helped get on their feet. And other people, even folks I was cheating with, to help get on their feet. And I just said, you know what? I am Mr. Captain Save Somebody. Because where's the reciprocity? And now I am very adamant upon, not adamant in terms of like, oh, you gonna, but adamant in terms of, if there's no reciprocity, I'm not giving my attention or feeding. You got to give something back to me. You talk about exchange. And it's not even on the level of prostitution as much as it is on the level of, if you're not feeding back into me or sowing back into me, I'm wasting my time, because I'm going to get frustrated. I'm not going to want this, you know, energy. That's why I say you have to vet the person that you're choosing. What character do they have? And then when you find somebody worth choosing, now I'm gonna tell you two things that I look for. One, and this is sowing back into me, if I give to you, have I found favor with God? Have I found a good thing with you? Am I safe with you without you bringing something up in my face? Can I correct you and say, hey, baby, I don't appreciate, you know, when you say that, or hey, look, you know, you saying this, but what you don't realize is, on my perspective, I'm seeing it like this. If I can't talk calmly and rationally with you about something to help us progress, then you're not for me. And I had to recognize that boundary for me. So yeah, to a certain level, we have to have some love for self and some ability to process through. But the biggest thing with all that is, am I committed to the relationship? And I look at some of these same women who are so committed to their children and so committed to their jobs. And it's a lot of women out here that are married to the money. No matter how they get it, they married to the money. And I know that when you have a spirit of mammon on you, it's gonna be hard to love anything else. It's gonna be hard to love God's values. I mean, and it's out of survival. I can't depend on you, so I'm gonna depend on money. I can't, and that's really the training of society today. Everybody's looking for some way to establish their wealth and everything. So, and it's like you're so busy trying to make money that you can't make a life, you can't make a relationship, you can't heal, you can't be whole. You're so all over the place. You ain't doing nothing. You ain't raising your children. You just getting them occupied, keeping them occupied with stuff while you trying to figure stuff out. While you trying to do this, that, and the other. While you trying to relive your teen years or whatever. So how can we be married when none of our values are valuable? Especially the commitment to the relationship. Now, I agree, cheating is an issue that's kind of hard to recover from, but not impossible. I do agree. You sell the house out from under me, you spend all the money. That's a difficult pill to swallow. You abusing me regularly, verbally, physically. That's a hard pill to swallow. but not impossible. And I'm not saying people should accept those things, because those are extreme cases. But not everybody dealing with those extreme cases. Do you respect and honor your mate? Do you serve your mate? Do you love your mate? These are things that are important for the commitment. Do you reciprocate? Or do you just follow the dictates of social media and influencers? May y'all have a good day. I pray y'all strengthen the Lord.